Everybody always coming at me, coming at my throat. They say, I ain't fought nobody at the 147-pound division.
Wow, Terence Bud Crawford questions Danny Garcia and him being the top welterweight in this current landscape. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Cash App, $ Boxingego. Appreciate you guys. Let's jump right into it. Terence Crawford, he did an Instagram live earlier, and he's questioning guys like Danny Garcia's resume and why should we consider him a top guy. And I have a lot to say. I'm going to play the clip in its entirety, but I just want to go over a couple parts. And at the end of this video, I'll play it straight through, and you guys will be able to leave me a comment and let me know what you guys think. This is Terence Bud Crawford.
Yeah. And I just be laughing, you know what I mean? Because everybody, the top welterweights in the divisions, you know what I mean, when they say they is. Who y'all got this weekend, Danny or Errol? My take, it's going to be a good fight. You got two talented fighters fighting each other. But let's all be real for one moment. And everybody talking about they always, they real and they know boxing. Well, let's be real. If you know boxing, why should we consider Danny Garcia a top welterweight in the division? Can somebody tell me that?
So there you guys have it. Terence Crawford is questioning why we would look at Danny Garcia as a top welterweight. Wow. This is Danny Garcia, his resume. This weekend, he's fighting Errol Spence Jr., and it's a much anticipated fight. Later in this video, Terence Crawford himself admits that the Danny Garcia-Errol Spence fight is a 50-50 fight. So it's almost like Crawford is hedging his bets here, because on one token, he's kind of shitting on Danny Garcia and saying, hey, what has he done? What has he done that's so special? He also talks about Porter. Later in this, which you guys will see when I play it, he says that Errol Spence only has one quality name. Kell Brook only has one quality name. Danny Garcia has one or two quality names. So why are these guys being considered top guys, right? And it just, to me, it sounds like some frustration from Terence Crawford. It really does. Danny Garcia, he's fighting Errol Spence this week, and it's not just welterweight. And see, this is the other thing where you have Terence Crawford, who's pretty much hedging his bet. He's almost making it sound like Danny Garcia is not a quality fighter, but then later he's telling you Danny Garcia is a quality fighter, and he's known him since the amateurs, and Danny would come back from being down 10-point deficits and stuff like that, and Danny Garcia has the sheer will to win and things like that. So how can you play it both ways? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Looking at Danny Garcia's resume, again, he's a guy who's fought for a title, and it's not just about welterweight. Here's another reason why Crawford's kind of hedging his bet, and I'm not understanding him. Crawford, in his live and just what he said in his interviews, he wants credit for his past work, which includes previous divisions. Like, hey, man, you'll hear in the Instagram, not in this video, but if you listen to the full video, Terence Crawford said, hey, when I fought Victor Postal, people said he was going to beat me and blah, 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 and I beat him before Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. So that was at 140, though. So we can't cut off Danny Garcia's 140 supremacy, but talk about your previous divisions, 135 and 40, and give you credit for it. So when we're looking at Danny Garcia, why is he a top welterweight? Because he's had a top boxing career, and he just happens to be at welterweight now, right? But let's look at it. This week, he's fighting the number one person, consensus #1, the guy with the most belts, Errol Spence. He fought Ivan Red Cash. I can't fault him for that. Red Cash stopped Devin Alexander, and this date was reserved for Errol Spence, but as we know, he got in a car wreck, so that wasn't going to happen. So that's no fault of Danny Garcia, the wreck that Errol Spence was in. He fought and stopped Adrian Granados. Nobody else had done that. He fought guys like Amir Imam and stopped Amir Imam. He fought Javier Fortuna, who just looked great on a PBC card. And Adrian Granados also fought Shawn Porter, didn't get stopped. Fought Broner, didn't get stopped, but Danny stopped him and made it look pretty convincing. Danny's losses, Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter, all respected and disputed. Some people thought, like, if you look at Keith Thurman, he beat Danny Garcia, and it was via a split decision. The Shawn Porter victory, I thought Danny could have edged it. You see what I'm saying? So while Crawford's saying, what have these guys done? I mean, these are top guys. Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter, these are highly contested. Keith Thurman barely beat Danny, according to the judge's scorecard. Then in between that, after losing, to Brandon Rios, right? Losing to Keith Thurman, he knocked out Brandon Rios. Nobody had knocked out Brandon Rios with the headshot. Tim Bradley did knock him out, but it was to the body. So these are the things that Danny Garcia has done. Funny enough is Crawford's only pay-per-view in this welterweight division since he's been with ESPN is Amir Khan. And Amir Khan was coming off a fight with Samuel Vargas, and Samuel Vargas, who later got destroyed by Virgil Ortiz, but he had already lost to Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. He gave Amir Khan the toughest fight. Virgil Ortiz got past him, Samuel Vargas relatively easy, stopped him. Errol Spence, Danny stopped him. Amir Khan, which is Crawford, again, his only pay-per-view that he's had, he had the difficult time with Samuel Vargas. And Danny Garcia beat him at home in Philly, no problem. And Danny also knocked out Amir Khan, even though it was at 140. So it's just like Lucas Matisse. Peterson fight was at 143, basically. So that was a welterweight fight. Paulie Malignaggi, Robert Guerrero. And you have Terence Crawford really questioning Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia. What have they done? And if you're going to say that Errol Spence only has one credit, that whole speech, which you guys will hear, doesn't make sense. He said Kell Brook only had one good win, Shawn Porter. He said Errol Spence only had one good win, that's Kell Brook. But Errol Spence's last fight was Shawn Porter. So how did you give credit to Kell Brook for beating Shawn Porter, a champion, right? And even though Kell Brook, he beat Shawn Porter, it was via like a majority decision. Right there, boom, we got action. So Kell Brook beat Shawn Porter via majority decision, and then this is how Shawn Porter bounced back. His next fight was against Eric Bonet. Then he beat Broner. He won every round except for the 12th where he got dropped. Then he fought Keith Thurman, arguably could have won there. Then he fought Andre Berto, stopped him. Then he fought Adrian Granados, fought through a fractured hand and won there. Then he fought a highly contested fight with Danny Garcia, and he beat him. Then he fought a Cuban fighter who's highly ranked in multiple sanctioning bodies, Yordenis Ugas, who was with Top Rank and left, and he had a highly disputed fight. Then he beat him in a close fight. Then he gave Errol Spence a tough fight. So how can you question these guys' pedigree? But you fought Kell Brook 3 years after Errol Spence. Shawn Porter fought Kell Brook in 2014. You fought Kell Brook 6 years and a Golovkin stoppage and a Errol Spence stoppage after, these other guys like Shawn Porter had fought the guys. He literally just fought Kell Brook less than a month ago. I don't understand Crawford's whole talking point. So again, how did you give Kell Brook credit for beating Shawn Porter, and Shawn Porter became a champion again before the Errol Spence fight? As I showed you, he fought championship level fights, Broner, Keith, Berto, right? Granados. These were eliminator fights that I went to both of them in New York, Berto and Granados. This was a WBC title fight where he reclaimed the title, And then he had a title defense against a highly ranked you guys, and then he unified with Spence. So that's quality. But let Terence Crawford tell it. He made it sound like who is Porter and Danny Garcia beaten. Like, it doesn't make sense to give Kell Brook credit for beating the champion. You know, I would even go as far as saying Shawn Porter fought better names after Kell Brook when he became a champion, you know, the second time than who he had fought before. Before, he had fought guys like Devin Alexander, cool name, but Devin already lost to Timothy Bradley, stuff like that. So Shawn Porter's resume was stellar after the Kell Brook fight. Eric Bonet, Broner, Keith Thurman, Berto, Granados, Danny Garcia, Ugas, and Spence, all consecutively. So it's like, what angle is Crawford even coming from? And then to make that even more crazy is if you're going to scrutinize and say Errol Spence only got one good win, even though you're not giving him credit for Mikey Garcia and Shawn Porter, people want to see Crawford fight guys like that. So if we're going to only say Kell Brook only had one good win, Errol Spence only had one good win, and Danny only had one good win, who was Jeff Horn's win? Manny Pacquiao. And a lot of people think he didn't even win that fight, right? So this is Jeff Horn's box rec. This is when he fought Crawford. His only good name, Gary Corcoran, you know, Manny Pacquiao, Ali Funeka, Rico, and a 40-year-old Randall Bailey, who was 46-8, and Cotto had beat years before. None of these names were recognizable. Victor Plotnikov, Alfredo Sauce, whoever all these guys are. So Jeff Horn literally only had one name on his resume. It's really disrespectful what Crawford's saying, and he's pitching it as nobody else knows boxing but him. But Jeff Horn had like 15 fights, right? Hold on, I'll pull it up like this. Jeff Horn, when he fought Pacquiao, I think he had like 15 fights. He was 16-0. And the only person he had fought before Pacquiao was a 40-year-old Randall Bailey. So how could you question Shawn Porter, Errol Spence, and guys like that resume, but the guy you beat to become a champion was 16-0, and his only credible win was Pacquiao, which a lot of people were frustrated with because they thought he really lost the fight. You see what I'm saying? This is not a good look. You know, it's really not a good look. And I don't understand this angle that Crawford is coming with. I really don't. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't really make sense to question Porter, Danny Garcia, who's in a big fight. You're going live on the week of Errol Spence and Danny Garcia and talking about how good of a fight it is and how Danny is a game-bred veteran, and you've known this since the amateurs, but then you're also trying to shit on him. But then you look at guys like Jeff Horn. He was 16-0 when he fought Pacquiao. That's his only real credible win before you fought him. And he barely even beat Pacquiao, if he even did it. They even rescored it with 5 new judges because people were outraged with the outcome. So to me, I just feel like it's a bad look for Terence Crawford because it seems like he's having to explain his resume and why he's fighting the guy he's fighting and stuff like that. And, you know, that's just not a good position. But to look at Danny, who's fought Matisse and Porter and Keith Thurman, who fought Pacquiao and Diego Chavez when he was relevant and stuff like that, and question any of these guys, I'm just not understanding it at all. I mean, we could look at Mean Machine. That's within his last 2 fights. If you're saying Errol only fought one good name, who did he beat? He was coming off a draw, majority decision draw, to Ray Robinson, who beat Crawford in the amateurs, he says. And that was his fight right before Crawford. And before that, Mean Machine fought Roberto Ariza, you know, Alex Ariza nephew, Juan Carlos Abreu, who at that point was 21-3, David Avanesian, Maroney's Montemayor. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have no names on his Cameron Carrillo, who was with Mayweather promotion, I think, 8-11. Jeremy Bryant. I mean, these are the names he fought. Like, these aren't spectacular names. And Mean Machine was your mandatory, so you fought him. So I feel like Danny, the logic Crawford was using, it just missed me. You know, Danny Garcia and Shawn Porter, the reason we're not giving them credit because they fought each other is because they fought everybody that was their contemporary throughout their careers. You know what I mean? Be it if they were in a smaller division and moved up. Again, how could we not give Crawford opponents, or actually like guys like Danny Garcia, not give him credit for his body of work, like 140, Eric Morales, Lucas Matisse, but Crawford wants the fans to give him credit for the fights that he had, like Victor Postal and stuff like that. You know, to me, it's not making sense, but I'll leave you with the video. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Really weird takes from Terence Crawford. Let me know what your takeaways are. Watch the video and, you know, leave me a comment. But I thought this was kind of poor form from Terence Crawford to make it look like all these guys aren't top guys. And then he said Errol Spence only, you'll hear it in a second. He said Errol Spence only had one credible name, but you said you want to fight Errol. But last week you said you didn't even want to fight Errol and you're kind of over it. So it's like, it's highly confusing what Crawford is doing. Last week he did an interview with Miss Boxing Baby. He said he's over the Errol fight. He don't care if it don't happen. It is what it is. But then on today's live stream, he said he wants to fight Errol. But then he also said Errol only has one good name. But he also said Danny Garcia, Errol is a great fight. Then he kind of shits on Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia's resume and said, how's Danny Garcia top welterweight? But then later he explains pretty much how Danny's a top welterweight because he says Danny has always found a way to win, and it's a good fight with Errol Spence, and it's 50-50, and you're looking forward to a good fight. So it's like, out of all these things you're saying, which one is it? Is Danny Garcia not top 10? He's not a top welterweight? Or is he this great guy that used to come back from 10-point deficits in the amateurs, and you're looking forward to, he's not a walk in the park for Errol Spence, and it's a 50-50 fight? It's like he's hedging his bet, and it sounds really insane to me. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We working. Yo, smash the like button. Check out the video. Let me know what you think. Peace.
Everybody always coming at me, coming at my throat. They say, you know, I ain't fought nobody at the 147-pound division. Yeah. And I just be laughing, you know what I mean? Because everybody, the top welterweights in the divisions, you know what I mean, when they say they is. Who y'all got this weekend, Danny or Errol? My take, it's going to be a good fight. You know, you got two talented fighters fighting each other. But let's all be real for one moment. And everybody talking about they always, you know, they real and they know boxing. Well, let's be real. If you know boxing, why should we consider Danny Garcia a top welterweight in the division? Can somebody tell me that? And that's my boy, you know what I mean? I ain't hating on him or nothing. I just want to hear, you know, from the people. You know, I just want to see what people will allude to. Can anybody tell me why Danny Garcia is the top welterweight in the division? Nobody yet? Okay. I ain't mad at Danny. Danny my boy, man. I'm cool with Danny. I came up with Danny. I'm just speaking facts now. You know what I mean? I'm speaking facts. Because everybody, you know, always slamming my record, coming at my throat, saying this and that. So I got to give it back sometimes. You know what I mean? Let's be real. Danny ain't beat nobody in the welterweight division. He beat Paulie, Robert Guerrero, and everybody beat them, if you ask me. So if Errol beats Danny, I'm saying it's going to be a walk in the park, Danny can fight his ass off. That's why I consider him one of the top welterweights in the division. Not taking away his 2 close decision losses that he have. You know, I got him, you know, up there. But at the same time, if we going by what the media say, he's not a top welterweight. You know, he lost. He did his thing, but he lost. You know, just being honest, we keeping it real. You know, the 2 shots that he had, he lost. Now, given Terence Crawford case, you know what I mean? You can say what you want. I won the fights that I had to win, you know, against the guys that I had to win against. Errol Spence, you know what? He fought Kell Brook. He beat Kell Brook. You know, Shawn Porter ain't beat the top welterweight. Y'all claim. But in my eyes, Shawn Porter didn't fought all the welterweights there is to fight, but Terence Crawford. Shawn Porter is another one that, you know, came up short in a lot of fights. Well, a few fights. But he made him close. You know, Thurman, he fought quite a few welterweights in the division. But when we talking, you know, the number 1 guy in the division, you know, we got to be talking about Terence Crawford, man. Moving up, doing my thing. Willing to prove it, too. But this week going to be a tremendous fight, I'm telling y'all. You know what I mean? Danny ain't no pushover, and everybody excited to see how Errol going to come back. You know, we shall see this week. Let's not hate on my victories and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Every time I fight, everybody got something to say. Prior to the fight, everybody thought I was going to lose. I had people, this the toughest fight of his career. Kell Brook is so big and strong, and he's going to do this, I heard it all. And those same guys, after the fight, had the most excuses. Even the writers. The writers said this and said that after the fight, you know. He was washed up. Now he was washed up. Prior to the fight, the man told you out his own mouth, this is the best he's ever felt in his whole career. He left home, went to camp, no injuries. He wasn't coming off an eye injury like, you know, previous defeat. He was on a 3-fight winning streak. But I can't point out all these facts to certain casual fans because it just go over y'all head and y'all just believe what y'all want to believe, you know. Why would Spence about to fight Saturday? How many Spence gonna fight? That don't even make sense. See, that's what I be talking about. That's what I be talking about. I want that fight though. That's one fight that I really want. Spence and Pacquiao. Them the 2 fights that I really want. That I really be looking forward to in the near future. I really want Spence just to show and shut everybody up and see what they're going to say after that. Because I know it's going to be a lot of excuses and bandwagon shipping. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. Who I got out of the Spence and Danny fight? I actually got Spence. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't know. It's like more of a, I don't know, man. It's gonna be good because I know Danny personally, and I didn't seen him since we was little kids. And he always rose to the occasion each and every time. So it's hard to bet against him. You know, that's why I say it's a 50-50 fight. It was a 40-60 in Spence's favor, but the more and more I think with my head and just think back to the Danny Garcia that I know when he motivated and when he feel like his back against the wall and got something to prove, he always rose to the occasion. Dating back to all the way when he was going overseas and down 10 points coming back to win. Like, Danny always was that type of person that never gave up, no matter, you know, any circumstances. So, you know, it's hard to just say that Errol gonna come through and bulldoze and walk through him, but at the same time, we've seen a different side of Errol that we ain't been seeing since before he was champion, and that's the hunger and the grit and the grind that he been putting in the gym to get back to the normal Errol Spence. So it should be a good fight. You know, I'm excited to see it. Wouldn't nobody mention Terence Crawford's name until they start losing. That's when PBC and Al and them and whoever they handle it, oh, well, now y'all can go over there. But when people was champion, you ain't never heard them say, oh, let's unify with Terence Crawford, or let's fight Terence Crawford. It was Terence Crawford got to get a belt, or what Terence Crawford done in the welterweight division, or it was always something, or he's on the other side of the street, or Bob Arum. It was always something. But now, like I said before, I already fought 2 PBC guys. And I think Amir Khan was managed by Al Heyman or something of that nature. I don't want to say something that I don't know, but I think. But yeah, so if that's true, that's 3 fighters, right? But the top guys, when they was champions, when they had something to lose, it was, no, don't say his name, no nothing. But now, you see things is changing. You see things is changing now. You know, you see Shawn Porter say, oh, man, me and Bud can fight. Now you see Keith Thurman, oh, send a contract. Now you see who else? You starting to see a lot of young fighters coming up, but that's what they post. Let's be real, man. Spence only really fought one guy, Kell Brook, and Kell Brook only fought one guy. You know what I mean? And that was Shawn Porter. And Danny Garcia only fought 2 guys. Well, really one. I don't know, man. I'm different. I just look at, you know what I mean, like, what have you done? Or what have they done that's so different than me? And they've been in this division longer than me. They fought each other. Okay. So since they fought each other, that makes them, so if I beat Aegis, that makes him a top welterweight then. If I beat, but Jeff Horn was considered one of the biggest welterweights in the division. He never lost in the division. Tell me. Then, yeah. So everybody that I fought should be in the top 6, 7. I'm just throwing it out there because I guess if they fight each other, then all of them considered in the top, whatever, they top welterweights because they get to fight each other. But what about the person that lose? He's still ranked high? I don't get it. Somebody got to help me get it. Because every fight that I done fought, except the Khan fight, everybody was just like, man, you going to whitewash Khan. But every fight that I done fought in the welterweight division, everybody was like, man, you going to lose. You too small.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.